What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the preview video of the EGCTV Afreeca Duos event. In this video, we will be taking a look at the format of the tournament, the players that are involved, and basically discuss everything that you can expect from the 2 weekends of this event. Afreeca Duos is a $10,000 prize pool tournament sponsored by the streaming platform Afreeca TV. The event features 16 teams in a 2v2 single elimination format, where the team captains select each of their teammates in a draft format. This basically means that the lowest seeded player will select the teammate first, and then you start moving on towards higher seeds. This, of course, results in players like Beastie, Marine Lord, who are generally seeded very high, to pick their teammates last. This creates an interesting balance between teams because, quote unquote, the weakest player will be able to select the strongest teammate and so on. As you will see, there are some very interesting combinations, but one of the things I love about this tournament, looking ahead, is that it's difficult to predict which teams are the strongest, and it's very difficult to predict the outcome of any of the matchups, actually. Now, Afreeca TV is a streaming platform, as I mentioned, that's most well known for running a lot of StarCraft 2 esports. So for them, the target audience is the general RTS audience that EGCTV has as well. And for them, sponsoring this tournament means that they do want to expand towards this audience as well. It also means that this event is not sponsored by Microsoft. Now, the implication of that is that developers of the game are also eligible to play. So you will see that we actually have some devs on the rosters. Before we move on, let's take a look at the team captains who, for whatever reason, did not wish to participate in the event. Vorix and Lucifron will not be available as team captains in the event. Linok also decided not to play, and Dimu also going to be among the ones that does not play in the event. They are not, or they refused to be team captains and decided not to play as team members, so they'll be out of the tournament. Of course, given that this event is sponsored by Afreeca TV, this will be run and broadcast exclusively in English on the Afreeca TV channel of EGCTV. Now, when it comes to the maps of the event, we have a pretty standard lineup of maps with some good old school maps like Dry River, Hillandale, Lipany, King of the Hill, and such. Although King of the Hill is rumored to be replaced by another map, simply because players have been reporting lag spikes on the new patch on King of the Hill, and this might prompt admins to replace it. Having said that, we do have a fairly standard map pool, most of the maps being land maps. In each of the sets, teams, of course, will be picking home maps, and game number 1 will be played on a neutral map that's preset for every round. For the round of 16th, that's going to be Dry Arabia. Round of 8, Rocky Canyon. Semifinals will be on Dry River, and then finals will be on Lipany. Now, looking at the teams, we do have 16 teams. The top left of this infographic shows the number 1 seed Marine Lord. The bottom right is going to be the 16th seeded player, that is Baltoon. So top row is basically seed 1 to 4, and then 5 to 8, and so on. This gives you an impression of how the draft went, with Baltoon picking Krakedy, Core picking Donardi, and so on. Now, a couple of interesting things to look at over here is I Am Magic and Maito. Magic picking 9th here in this order, him being seed number 8, picked Maito, fellow Canadian, high-level AoE3 player turned AoE4 balance tester. He's actually going to be one of the sneakiest picks in this draft. His ATR and his tournament elo is not high because he himself being a developer is not eligible to play in major tournaments that are sponsored by Microsoft. But he is a very skilled player. Maito was a very dominant player in AoE3, and he knows the game inside out. So Magic and Maito, that's a scary team to look at. Then you have a second dev as well, Beastie picking Fiage. Fiage being a very well-known, long-term, high-level AoE2 player. Kind of the same scenario as Maito. It's going to be very interesting to see how Beastie teams up with him. Other themes that are interesting to look at are Louis MT and Yui Metal. Louis MT was the team captain, and if this was an open sign-up tournament where any team or any player can team with anyone, Louis MT and Yui Metal probably would have teamed up anyways. So that's one of those matchups where it's match made in heaven. Not just because the two players like to play a lot together, it's also because there is no language barrier between them. That's actually applicable for a lot of players, but that's also an added level of, I guess, well, let's just say that their team. I'm just at the loss of words. I've been casting for 5 hours, so that's my excuse. Anyway, that's going to be an extra level of intrigue. The fact that you are much more accustomed to each other is something that will be valuable here for Louis MT and UE Metal. Elsewhere, we have Anatan and Dark. I've just cast a long series that featured Dark. Very young player still. I think he's actually still younger than 18. Has been playing AoE for years. Mostly played AoE2 in the last 1 year. He tried to play AoE4 some time ago. And I've just cast his set versus Lash. And one of the things I've seen here is that he's got the raw skills, but he's brutally inexperienced in AoE4. It's going to be interesting to see how he teams up with Rising Star Anatan. And of course, the other team that is out there from the 3D clan, that's going to be B versus Cat. Cat, a player who made it into the top 16 of the Elite Classic. He's going to be with B. Elsewhere, we have one more team I want to highlight. That's Nyan Racing Cat and Chrysor. That spot was originally belonging to Dimu being a team captain. He unfortunately had to step back. So the solution to that from the admins was that the two highest ATR players, the tournament ELO system that's used for seeding, got the spot, and they accepted to play together. That's how we get Nyan Racing Cat and Chrysor playing in there. They are a little bit the wildcard team in that regard, but I wouldn't actually consider them much weaker than either of the teams. Looking at the brackets real quickly, we do have the round of 16th being played on the 24th and the 25th of June, so this coming weekend. And then the quarterfinals will be played on the Saturday that follows. Semifinals and grand finals will be played after that on Sunday. So the last Sunday of the event will feature both the semifinals and the grand finals, which is somewhat different from what you are usually used to. Usually, the Sunday is reserved just for the grand finals, and semifinals are played on the preceding day. Now, one of the interesting things with this event is that every single set will be broadcast. So part of the reason why there are 2 days committed to the round of 16th is because every single set will be broadcast. We will take a look at the broadcast schedule in a second as well. Looking at the brackets, I do not want to go very deep into the predictions because, as I mentioned, because of the draft system, technically, any of these teams could prevail. I don't think there are massive differences between these teams. So I don't really see a reason to making guesses here on performance, especially because it could really come down to small nitpicky details. What I anticipate actually is that we will have a very high abundance of interesting and long sets. A lot of sets going to game number 4, game number 5. I don't anticipate many sweeps, simply because the way that this drafting system was built, it kind of means that the quote-unquote weakest player will get the strongest teammate and such. Obviously, there will be factors to look at, like team chemistry. Talk about a team like Louis MT and UE Metal, for instance. There will be factors to look at, like sneaky players who are generally not rated very high in tournament elo. For example, Maito and FH, who simply don't have tournament elo because they don't play tourneys, them being devs. There could also be other factors, like how much practice time a team is able to get in, or even just small details like how good a day a certain team has. One thing I want to highlight, actually two things on this bracket, is top of the bracket, we could end up having Team Beastie versus Team Core. I'm actually going to highlight that for you, so give me a second. Team Beastie versus Team Core could be a thing in the quarterfinals. I think looking at this lineup, especially knowing how experienced VH is in AoE4 as a balanced dev and how significant of a player he was in AoE2 as well, I feel like Beastie and VH is one of my favorite teams when it comes to the power structure of this entire tournament. And I think they might be the favorites on the upper side of the bracket. But then again, I wouldn't bet a lot of money on this. I think they are my favorite from the top. We'll have to see if they get there. But there could be a very juicy Team Beastie versus Team Core matchup in the quarterfinals. Down at the bottom, I love the Magic Maito combo. I think Maito is a brutally underrated AoE4 player, and a lot of people will be surprised on how good this team is. Elsewhere, Louis Empty and Yui Metal is also a theme I like. I think you probably already had at least some sort of clue about that. I think the fact that they share the same nationality, I think the fact that they already played a lot of tournaments together, no language barriers, a lot of practice time throughout the history of AoE4 for them, the team chemistry already being there, those are factors that could give them an advantage over some other teams. But then again, you cannot discount other teams like, let's say, Anatan and Dark, B and Cat with the 3D clan. Teams that are grinding non-stop, like Puppy Paw and Lash, for instance. I saw Wham and Blade grind a lot. I think Beast and FH played some sets, but they probably will practice more. At least this is based on what I see from the player streams. Having said that, one of the nice things to see with this tournament is that when the teams were announced and when the teams were finished drafting, all the players started grinding 2v2s. You could see every single one of these teams looking for a practice team or a practice partner team. And when you go into the stream of someone like, let's say, Wham, the chances are right now that you're going to see him practicing 2v2s with Blade. I've just woken up to see Puppy Paw and Lash play already. I don't know if Puppy Paw just woke up early to do that or he didn't even sleep throughout the night, but a lot of these teams are grinding very hard, and it's going to be very intriguing to see how they perform. Lastly, let's take a look at the broadcast schedule for the Saturday and Sunday of Afreeca Duos. Starting off with Saturday, that's actually a day that I will be casting. First two sets, I will be matched up with Wham, and the second two sets, I will be matched up with Beastie. So, two players that I didn't cast with before. It's going to be interesting how our chemistry matches up, but they're the smart guys, I'll be the loud guy, just like, casual caster dynamics. But first two sets will be, of course, Anatan then Dark versus Poppy and Lash. Then Zerton Nush. I haven't highlighted Nush, but he is a juggernaut in AoE3. And when he tried playing AoE4, he was very powerful as well. Kind of the same ballpark as Dark is. Inexperienced, but if he just does the things that he knows, he's devastating. So don't sleep on that team. That could be a scary team as well with Nush. Depends a lot on how familiar Nush is with the recent changes to the game. They will be facing off against Recon and Matiz. We have a France versus Russia matchup in the fourth series, Marine Lord and Eliona versus B and Cat. And then the third series, it's going to be Baltoon and Crackety facing off against Core and Don Artie. On Sunday, we will have a lot of North American players featured. Magic and Maito will be against State and Sordov. Louis Metal, not Louis Metal, Yui Metal and Louis Empty. They could call their team Louis Metal, though. Louis Empty and Yui Metal will be against Wham and Blade. Divine Kiljardi versus Nyan Racing Cat and Chrysor. And then the last set of the weekend will be Beastie and FH. Of course, when it comes to the rest of the schedule, it will be based on the results of this weekend. But as I mentioned, the quarterfinals will be played in the upcoming Saturday. So this weekend, the first weekend of the event, is going to be committed to the round of 16th. And then the following Saturday, you will have the quarterfinals. And the event will finish on the Sunday of the 2nd of July with the semifinals and the grand finals. One thing I'm certain about is that the event is going to be a banger. You definitely want to check this out. We haven't seen a lot of 2v2 action recently. The teams are very spicy. Every single matchup can give you amazing games because the teams are as close to being balanced as humanly possible. Hard to predict the outcomes of sets. You could have a lot of upsets. You could have a lot of surprises. It's going to be very fun to see how the players will team up and how they can collaborate with players that they haven't really played a lot of 2v2s with before. And in general, of course, it's going to be very fun to see all these fancy 2v2s. Lastly, of course, if you want to watch the event live, it's going to be broadcast exclusively in English on Afreeca TV or the EGCTV channel on Afreeca TV. There's a link down here, and I'm also going to put a link down below this video if you want to check it out. Obviously, for EGCTV, you being there live is going to be very helpful because I think it's not hard to guess that with Afreeca TV sponsoring the event, they're hoping for a good turnout. And a successful event could possibly open up opportunities for EGCTV, as it always does. Speaking of which, if you're still here watching this video and you're enjoying it, metrics do help content creators a lot, like myself. So if you like this video, then I greatly appreciate if you throw a like, if you throw a subscribe to the channel. These metrics are immensely valuable to me as well when it comes to getting new opportunities, when it comes to getting offers. So if you're still around, I would greatly appreciate that kind of support. And if you want to support this event on Afreeca, as Pesty himself said, the founder of EGCTV, in the after show of the Elite Classic Live, he said it himself, the best way to support EGCTV and this event is to watch it live on Afreeca TV. These metrics do help a lot with sponsorships. And I can tell you one thing. If you come in, if you tune in, you will be in for a treat because every single one of these sets will be amazing. This was the preview of the EGCTV Afreeca duos. Hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully you found it useful, and now you are pretty much aware of what's going to happen in the 2 coming weekends of Afreeca duos. Of course, in the middle of the event, we will have a video that will review the first weekend, so if you cannot watch some of the sets, don't worry. We'll talk through what happened in the first weekend, so you can go into the final weekend knowing exactly what was going on in the round of 16th. Once again, I greatly appreciate if you throw a like to this video, if you subscribe to the channel, it helps me a lot, and that's basically it for this video. Thank you so much. Once again, tune in for EGCTV. Tune in to Afreeca and enjoy this event. See you in the next video.